and that we're going to be presenting the situation in Slovenia. And then we're going to go more in depth.
What is the main takeaway from your slide? How would you, if you have elevator pitch, how would you pitch your own study?
So thank you, Yelena. So my study is about platform professionalism, and how it relates to AI is that, so I want to take your attention from AI to the absence of AI, because of course there has been a lot of studies and academic and political interest in algorithmic control. But, this interest is raising, especially in forms of work, which is delivery or ride hailing, but not all platforms are servicing this kind of work. So my study is about, our study with my colleagues is about domestic work and repair work. And in this kind of work, where the nature of the work is very personalized and dependent on client preferences, you see that the algorithm actually is not regulating the work phase. So there you see subjectivities, identities come into play. So I think when we are trying to understand AI in platforms, we should also focus on how the lack of AI or the absence of AI creating these worker subjectivities.
Thank you. Okay, so my research concerns the double topic of consent and resistance in relation to the algorithmic management of work in delivery workers. And my main concerns are informational asymmetry, the lack of central power figure, and what I explore is how gamification in the work process, in the work management, can lead to both consent, but at the same time, possibilities to resistance to the algorithmic work management.
Thank you. I would just like to say that I will be also presenting on behalf of Tomislav Kiš, who is the General Secretary of Novi Sindikat in the audience, so the co-author. And well, basically, our research is very hands-on and ongoing. And well, you may call this preliminary or observational, preliminary results maybe, or observational notes from like the main takeaway, I guess, is those observational notes from an event that we organized recently, which basically is trying to create a regional, if not transnational, collaboration amongst trade unions. And so we're trying to see how to address and how to form synergies to address the new challenges posed by AI in the landscape of work. So that's it.
So this is our panelist in person, and we have Zuzana Kowalik joining us from Warsaw. Zuzana, I saw that you are here. So if you can briefly introduce yourself and tell us what is the main takeaway from the paper you're going to present.
So my name is Zuzanna Kowalik, as it was already mentioned. I'm a researcher from the Institute for Structural Research in Poland, and I'm going to present a few points on the topic whether AI or robots in general used in cognitive tasks can lead to de-skilling based on my research conducted in shared services centers in Poland. So starting from a bit broader perspective, I think that for a long time we believed that AI would enhance human capabilities, mostly in repetitive and routine tasks. However, AI in the foreseeable future, one can say, will probably surpass humans also in critical thinking and problem solving. So this prompts a question whether humans could actually become enhancements of AI, not the other way around, and whether there is a possibility to unlearn essential advanced skills that we already have. For instance, in academia, tools like ChatGPT and advanced translation tools help us write better. But we rely on these technologies more and more, and this might diminish our language capabilities, language proficiency, or writing proficiency. In software programming, for instance, the use of tools like ChatGPT and automation software could potentially reduce the overall coding proficiency of an average programmer. So my research is neither on ChatGPT or programming or academia, but I believe that it can give some food for thought for our discussion later on.
And it really goes well with our discussion that we had during the lunch. So we are looking forward to hear about the evidence that you collected in Poland. For those who are with us in the room, but also for the people online, please jot down your questions, because we will have a Q&A session with our panelists after all the presentation ends. So we are asking for a bit of a patience, and we are looking forward to your questions and live discussion. So to kick off the discussion, we have the insights from Slovenia looking at the flexibilization of work. And you did a case study on a platform work based on interviews with Glovo and World Couriers. So could you please share what you have found out?
So basically, whilst we're still waiting for presentations, I'm going to do the nice part and just present ourselves. Yeah. And can we make it bigger? Do you see? How do we do that? Very good. Yeah. So we, as already said, we come from Slovenia and we represent 3 different institutions. Maya here is from Peace Institute from Ljubljana. I'm from University of Maribor, Faculty of Tourism, and Sasha is from Faculty of Social Sciences. And I also have to say that for us, it was very important to come here. And for me, after almost 20 years of giving conference presentations, this is the first one when all 3 authors came to present. So we really wanted to be here, but so sorry for causing additional problems with having to pull up additional chairs. So what we're presenting is our project called Future. Sorry, this doesn't work. Oh, there. Yeah. So to give you a bit of the context for our project is within the EU, European Union has within Eurostat financed the research on platform work. And to our knowledge, the only data that we could have specifically for country was for Slovenia. And they've assessed that about 30,000 people are in digital platform work. And this is about 3% of our of people employed in Slovenia, of people working in Slovenia. Yeah, sorry, wrong direction. And majority did less than 30 hours per month, and majority were not what we're talking right now, so on-location gig workers, but mostly workers working in other fields, and mostly, sorry, let's go back. Mostly they would be self-employed or employees in other areas or unemployed or students. So these are just national data. We do have a workers' union that is very much specialized in this case. Originally, it's a workers' union for young people, Mladi Plus, for precarious labor. And in April 2023, they have organized also the workers as platform workers union. So that was last year. But in the same year when they've organized the strike, both Wolt and Glovo rejected the dialogue. So in both cases, there was no process actually after that strike, with the main reason saying that they're not, that the workers are not employees. Sorry, this. Okay. And this month, Glovo is leaving the Slovenian market. So what we will have within the process of our research is that only Wolt will remain. So we're going to be really much finding out how this will affect the Slovenian platform workers. But a bit about the theory behind our work. We build on labor process theory, really trying to analyze the negotiations both between management and labor and how this affects the working conditions. And because I need to talk about the whole project, it has several different methods. And today we're going to be primarily presenting the workers' experiences, conditions, and responses, both the survey results and a little bit already also from the interviews. And because I need to be short,
I will say only a few words about our starting point. And for the context, I present here two figures. On the right side, you see, I cannot see it now. On the right side, you see the graph about the intensity of industrial actions. And you can see that after 80s, trade unions fell asleep. But meantime, the capitalists have seized the initiative. The results you see on the left side, that the share of national income that goes to the workers is declining since the 17th. Traditionally, trade unions struggle for a shortening of working hours, desalination of labor, and so on. But modern management doctrines, next slide, please. But modern management doctrines integrated these aspirations of workers and trade unions into their management ideologies, doctrines. Here you have 4, but we can find many more. Toyotism or lean production promised to end the assembly line, this horror of the Fordist era. Then flexible specialization promised to end dequalification of work. Creative clusters launch collaboration instead of competition among companies and also employers and workers. And platform workers, the latest stage, promised to end rigid working time or in fixed working hours. We argue that what we are actually dealing with is this is alienated flexibilization of work, and I will pass word now to Sasha to present our survey.
Okay, yeah, as we heard earlier, it's hard to get a representative sample because there's no list of this kind of workers. So what we have is a convenient sample. So we cannot generalize to the population based on this. So what we did was we partially sampled through the union. They helped us reach union members. And then we also printed out leaflets like this. And we went to locations where there's a lot of frequency of these delivery workers and gave those out and tried to collect as many responses as we could. We got about 90 surveys back, and what I'll be presenting now is part of the survey which deals with primarily with the reasons people chose their job. And we decided to cluster the responses to find out whether there are specific clusters of these platform workers based on their reasons for the reasons they gave in the survey for choosing this line of work. We got these 5 clusters here. The first is no alternative. No, sorry, I mislabeled this one. Number 1, these are the people who are happy with the job. Sorry, ignore the label. That's an error. So these are people who, when asked about why they chose this job, they listed more than other groups the comparative strengths. So the pay was better than what I had available. I like the flexibility. There's no boss and so on. Not so much situational factors like, I didn't have a choice. It was like a quick income. I was out of work, things like that. They report below average hours, but above average earning. Now, compared to other delivery workers, we don't need to stress that as a whole, this group is not earning a lot of money. But compared to other groups, they report that they're earning more, but working less hours than the other groups, which could imply that they have, discovered some sort of hack of the system or learned how to be more productive. And again, compared to other groups, high job satisfaction. Oh, sorry, this was a bit too early. The second are what we call the happy minimalist. They expect little of the job and are getting it. So they did not really list, these comparative strengths reasons as the reasons for choosing the job. It seems like it was more like something that fits them in the moment, and then they have high expectations, but they have high job satisfaction. So we're reasoning these are people who just, as I said, they expected little from the job and they're getting it, and they are not that dissatisfied because they're basically getting what they expected. The third group, and this is these happy minimalists, they are the largest group. They are 34, so around a third of our sample. The other groups are smaller. The third one we called no alternatives. This group overwhelmingly listed situational factors. So I had no other choice. I was looking for like some quick money. So basically we argue they chose the job because they had no better alternatives, or their alternatives overall were pretty bad. And given that, they were kind of forced to go into this employment. They earn less than the other groups and report low job satisfaction. Now, the next group is interesting. This is the group who overwhelmingly said that the fact that they don't have a boss here was the main motivating factor, or they report this factor more than other groups. But this group is also earning less money in the other groups and is reporting low job satisfaction. And the final group, we call them pragmatists, which are kind of similar to the happy minimalist, only that they are not happy. So they name availability of job and ease of entry as key factors. So again, they're kind of being pragmatic, like the minimalists. They're not expecting, really much here. They report slightly below average earning and job satisfaction. So they're not really happy with the job, but they're not unhappy either. So these are the factors that we mentioned. I won't go through them all. You can see group 4, the no boss group, they're really above average in the last column. The first group, they list the nature of work, that the schedule is flexible, that it's easy to sign up, and that the pay is better than in other jobs as key reasons, for joining. While the second group, they say for, those who are the happy minimalist, they say, the schedule is flexible, that's a bit above average. But they don't really list any positive the comparative advantages, like the nature of the work and so on. Then we also looked at, to go more in depth about job satisfaction, we asked them one question, how often they're satisfied with the work. And then we asked them also about specific factors, which aspects of their job they are happy with. And, we can see that the first group, they're basically happier than all of the rest with every aspect of the job. There are still more here. So basically they're above average or around the average, in some areas. Yeah, the second group does see some benefits, in the flexibility, the fact that they don't have a boss. So that's what we say, well, they are getting what they hoped for. Well, especially the third group, they're very unhappy with basically every aspect. That's another reason why we argue that this is the group that had no alternative. And it's more of a mixed bag for the fourth and fifth group. So just to conclude here, this ties in with what you heard in the interviews and also from labor union representatives and the workers themselves, how the heterogeneity of these delivery workers, for example, in the terms of status, whether they are student workers, whether they are employed and doing this as additional labor, and so on, was a huge obstacle to organizing. And we can see also here when looking at these factors, why they became engaged in this work. This kind of confirms this heterogeneity, not just in these terms of formal statuses, but also motivations and outlooks on work that might, further hinder efforts to organize these workers and make them see themselves as kind of a collective with a common interest. And
Thank you. This slide, this is still from the survey, show that platforms with the promise of making work more flexible really responded to the desire of the workers. You see that the reason why they decided to work for the platform work for platforms, 70% of respondents choose this option. And now I will speak about the interviews, the results from interviews, which allow us to take a look behind the entrepreneurial and flexible jobs in platforms. Platforms are allegedly autonomous entrepreneurs who prefer negotiate with their clients. But interviewees confirmed that they cannot negotiate with their clients, either restaurants, customers, platforms, or the state. They have many, in the interviews, they mentioned many issues they have, for instance, with the restaurants, where they can approach to the restaurant. Restaurants want them to approach from the backyard at the back door. Which caused them to lose a lot of time, but they cannot negotiate with the restaurant's platform, and restaurants make the rules and they just inform the workers. The same is with the customers. They are losing a lot of time when they have to go to the multi-apartment buildings, but they cannot, they have to accept the rules that platforms set. Issues with the platforms are availability of a task, distance they have to make, for instance, bicycles, and the state also. So the result is that they have no influence on working conditions, including the pay. Here I compared two consecutive. I will show two consecutive deliveries for Wolt and Glovo. That means that other factors like increased demand or bad weather does not make effect on the price. It's what is important is only the distance of the delivery, and we see that it's completely arbitrary. The first delivery in Wolt was 54% higher than the second, and in Glovo it was 23% higher than the second, although the deliverer have to do the two stops. Next slide, please. Then I compared the prices for the delivery in 2020 and in 2024. This data I got from the older interviews with the deliverers. And we can see that despite the rise of living costs, in the meantime, the cost for the delivery in Volta was almost 20% lower, and in Glovo, 32% lower. Next, please. Deliverers reported in the interviews that they feel distanced, alienated, distanced, and also that they are hiding what they are living for living from their friends. And what we notice is a break between the person and his professional identity. When they were referring to themselves, they were referring to their side jobs they were doing besides the deliveries. One was establishing a workshop, other was a cameraman, the third was making a marketing firm, one was experimenting with cryptocurrencies, and some have obligations, care obligations towards parents and children. Next, please. What else? Well, the future of the platform work. What we noticed is that the local workers are leaving the jobs because they are underpaid and they cannot afford to do it anymore, and that migrants are taking their place. And what we notice also that not only platforms but also other companies are experimenting with the making work more flexible. For instance, discount retailers hire employees only for 6 hours a day. And what are they? So companies are taking the rights to set the rules, how to employ the people, and what they are becoming is private legislator, as a Russian scholar would say. And with this I conclude the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and for the presentation, and congratulations on this new classification. I believe we will have many follow-up questions on the situation on the ground, but also about the new categories that you introduced. Going from alienation and flexibilization, we are still in the realm of platform work, but we are going to approach it from another angle, which is professionalism. Kadir, you also co-authored this paper with two more colleagues from the Higher School of Economics from Moscow. And can you tell us what you learned about the sense of professionalism in Turkey and Russia? You compared workers in these two countries.
Thank you, Jelena, and thank you, colleagues, for very interesting work. It was a pleasure to listen, especially about how these workers can't negotiate with the clients and with the restaurants, with the platform in the delivery work. And I'm going to present another actually situation where our research with my colleagues is about home repair work, where most of the working phase is very much dependent on client preferences. So workers actually do negotiate with clients their preferences of the work, their conditions, their monetary conditions. And that's why, you know, this subjectification processes come to the fore. Can I have the slides? Yeah, so this is work that we did with Andrei Shevchuk, Denis Trepko. Actually, Andrei is here with us today. Maybe he will join us in the discussion. Let me continue where I stopped in my opening speech. So when work, like domestic work or repair work is personal and dependent on client preferences, we see that this concept of negotiability emerging. And workers actually negotiate their conditions, not only their conditions, but their autonomies and their identities too with the clients under such works. And in line with this Jarrahi et al.'s classification, we study platforms as a sum of negotiated relationships. And we look how professional identities are created, recreated, resisted, or reshaped within domestic work platforms. A little bit word about professionalism and how it's actually changing with the platforms. We see that already the concept of classical concept of professionalism, which is based on this exclusive knowledge, this difference between professions and occupations is getting weakened because of the weakening of the Fordist mode of production, because of the advent of managerialism, where the professional authority is getting weaker and weaker. And this also led to the emergence of professionalism as a discourse, which is actually used by management to comply the workers in line with their standards. And this also led to the emergence of what's on the literature is called professionalism and job proficiency duality, where a classical definition of professionalism is contrasted with job proficiency, which is basically the availability of the worker, the eagerness to do the job without any necessary professional education, but some practice of doing the work. And now we see that with the advent of platforms, many professional services are offered in platforms, and this results in the concept of platform professionalism. Professionalism in platforms now more and more used as a discourse to control workers and encourage them to act in line with client expectations. So in this background, we asked the following questions. So we wanted to see how workers are negotiating the effects of platformization in relation to their professional identities. We also took two different platform designs, and we wanted to see how these different competitive designs are effective on these subjectification processes, and also in which ways this professionalism discourse is employed by the platforms and how this is reflected on worker identities and agencies. A little bit on the study setting. So we took two platforms, one in Turkey, one in Russia. The one in Turkey is called Armut. It's actually in a very dominant position in Turkey in terms of domestic work and house repairs. We see like a lot of cleaning, care, or repair works offered in this platform, and they have a monopolistic market position. And they actually have two different working models where they reserve a certain bid, or they open it to a closed, highly mediated bidding process, which I'm going to talk to you in detail a little bit after. And the second platform that we looked at is Udo in Russia. They offer services of cleaning, housekeeping, and repairs also. And they have competitors within the market, and they work more like a directory of workers where you can go and just choose the worker depending on your category. So when we compare how these two platforms are actually working, when we look at Armut's bidding model, it actually works like similar to an auction house, where when every service request is created, 4 workers are selected to compete to take the job, and they make monetary offers. The timing of the work is flexible to be, let's say, negotiated between the client and the worker. And also the monetary transaction as well is negotiated. And we have, of course, as in many platforms, a rating and comment system. Plus, they have like a priority system where, as it was talked in the previous session, like to ensure the activity of the worker, the workers are ranked within the platform depending on the offers that they make recently, so that the higher ranked workers are getting the service requests faster and in advance. But when we look at Udo, it's a different mechanism. It's similar to a web-based directory of jobs. Timing of the work is also flexible, and there are no limits to how many workers are within this competitive process. They have a rating and comment system, but no priority ranking system. If you look at the data a little bit shortly, I'll talk. So we collected data through interviews. We did 9 interviews at Udo and 20 interviews at Armut. And we recruited participants through placing ads in the platforms. And we sampled workers, especially under the repair category, including electricity, plumbing, and painting categories. And most workers have, which is important for our analysis, had professional education or certification who joined in our study. And we also took some platform data, the platform guiding content prepared for the workers, and took it in the analysis as well. So when we come to our results, we see actually 3 different understandings of professionalism from the part of the workers. These are not very different from each other. They include some aspects of each other. So they're not lines of differences between them, but there are differences. Like, for example, we see an exclusive definition of professionalism where professionalism is defined through the exclusive knowledge of the job, and this knowledge comes from out of the platform, like from professional bodies, authorities, education, and they reject this. The workers who stuck with this definition, they reject the platform's expertise. And we see also a practical form of professionalism where the professionalism is defined through practical ability to solve client demands and client problems. So it's basically more about how the experience within the platform is giving the worker this ability to satisfaction of the client. And we see also an entrepreneurial form of professionalism where professionalism is seen as actually an image through the eye of the client. So the development of the constant development of the business, this serious image of a professional worker. So if you like, if you see in detail, for example, in Armut, professionalism actually is used as a discourse to ensure the proper communication from the workers to the clients. Let's see how they actually recommend the workers to behave. They say, leave a professional impression on the client by following all processes with the client with interest and by using a positive communication language with the client satisfaction focus. So here, the definition of professionalism is through the client satisfaction principle. And we see that this discourse is actually quite taken by the workers. So we see that some practical definition of professionalism is very prevalent. For example, the plumber from Turkey told me, so a customer created a post in Armut. He said that it's his job that 5 different companies cannot do, and that those who trust themselves should call. I called them and solved this problem. Therefore, I consider myself a professional. So professionalism is defined through the ability to actually solve the problem of the client. And similarly, an electrician from Russia told us, when a client looks at a worker, he looks at it like choosing a product. Let's say on Wildberries, you look at reviews. So comparing to himself actually to a product. So the worker has actually internalized and combined this idea of ratings and comments with his understanding of professionalism. And a further step from this submission to ratings and comments was the definition of professionalism through entrepreneurial traits, like developing the work, developing the business. So an electrician told me, when you think about it and say I'm a professional, you have already taken a step forward and will calculate the next step. I started with a backpack. I needed to be more professional. I rented a car. Okay, there's a car. You're driving it by renting, and then you achieve to buy your car. So this this image of professional as an entrepreneurial, actually, as an entrepreneur, is combined with the image of a professional. And one thing which was very fascinating is that how workers actually combined this platform's autonomy, which we discussed in this in the previous sessions and in your presentation as well. Like autonomy in the platform is actually associated with the autonomy of as a professional. So many workers actually use the platform to escape the managerialism in the organizations that they worked before. So Dennis, an electrician, told us, I joined the platform because I can earn significantly more than in an organization. If you're a professional in an organization, you are underestimated. I'm 38 years old. I've submitted to many managers who, for the most part, were wrong in what they were doing. And we also see some examples of how professionalism is seen as an exclusive knowledge sphere, rejection of, if you say, of platform authority on knowledge and client-based definitions. For example, in these definitions, usually workers see the origin of their platform professionalism out of the platform and in their knowledge and education. So one electrician told us, you must know everything to be a professional, so I don't make a claim. And one repairer from Russia told us, thinking to myself, who can assign diplomas there in the platform? What authority does the platform have to call us as professional, to give us badges or anything to indicate we are professionals or not? So last slide, if we talk about generally, we see that the market-based features of platforms are influential on the professional identities of workers. And this is actually, when we compare 2 different platform workings, this is more evident in a more competitive platform design, like in the case of Armut. So we see job proficiency traits more there. And workers actually cope with such conflicts by introducing entrepreneurial definitions of professionalism. And also we see that the autonomy in the platform is seen as a way to escape managerial pressures in the organizations. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Katia, for sharing with us. I believe that domestic work, especially in the context of platform work, has been understudied, and it was really nice to see through the lenses of professionalism. And we're gonna continue the discussion in the Q&A session. We are still in the field of platform work, but this time we are going to access it through the lenses of resistance and self-organizing. Anna, who is coming from Vienna, Central European University, will share more about worker strategies to game the system and how they are gaming algorithms that define algorithmic their working conditions, as we heard so many times this morning. Anna.
Yes, I do have. Thank you. Okay, so thank you for the presentations before. Both of them were very interesting, and I'm also concerned with delivery workers as the Slovenian colleagues. And as it was said before, my main concepts, my points of interest are consent and resistance, and how they are both present in the gamification in the work of bicycle couriers. And so I conducted the research around 2 years ago in Budapest. I looked at the delivery workers of Foodpanda, which since converted into Foodora. I did semi-structured interviews, and I worked as a bicycle courier for some time. So it was also an ethnographic research. And my main interest was how the couriers experience algorithmic work management and how they relate to it, what they think about it. And so just a general overview, but I think there was enough talk about it today already. But so some insights about why AI at work is interesting in this specific case. So there is an information asymmetry, which I will say more about, but in one part in the work organization and the other part the ranking system. There is a lack of accountability, lack of human oversight. And in the case of resistance, which is very important, there is a lack of a central power figure. And you will see some quotes which are from my interviews. And one of my interviewees said, they sent me something, but it doesn't really work like that. The important thing is that we can trick it, but how it works, nobody knows. So it's about the algorithm, and that's how we turn into the next slide, which is the gamification. Gamification refers to all the different modes in which the work is made more challenging or entertaining. And I distinguish between gamification from above, which comes from side of the management, and gamification from below, which comes from the side of the workers, because those are two very different things. And there is also a pair concept, which is making out and making do. And I explored resistance with these two concepts, because making do means that careers play the games, but they stay within the boundaries set by the company. And making out, which is concept from Buravoy, is when the careers can actually hurt the company with the games they play. And so here you can see a table, which, so there are two sides, gamification from above and from below, and it's distinguished into making do and making out, but I will turn to this in more detail. So let's start from the games from above. So first of all, this application, which through the work is organized and tasks are allocated, has a very game-like interface. It has an unpredictability, and my interviewee compared it to gambling. He said it's a bit like gambling. You can never know how many deliveries you will get, how many tips you will get. He compared to it playing a scratch card. Second point is the ranking system. So in the work organization of Foodora, ranking is super important because there are shifts, and those careers who are in the first rank can choose shifts earlier. And there are 10 different ranks. So who is in the 8th or 10th rank, they have very bad chances to choose their shifts. And it's not like Volt, for example, where you can just check in and work anytime. It's not like that. You need to have shifts. So it's super important to have a good ranking. And although there are some guidelines provided by Foodora of how this ranking works, the careers were very skeptical about it. They says it's very inconsistent. They don't know why they suddenly in group 4 or 6 in 2 weeks ago, they were in group 2. And the ranking also acts as a disciplining power, especially by this uncertainty. So one career told me, I'm sure that they know everything, and I'm sure that this ranking system is bullshit. It's not what counts. They must have some sort of a record of every worker. So there's this constant surveillance also present. And there is another thing, which is bonuses. It's announced by the company in a very ad hoc manner. So if it's raining, they says, okay, now it's bonus time. And so the problems with these games from above is that they lead to very heavy self-exploitation. For example, in the case of the bonuses, you get huge bonus if you reach 50 delivery in one day. But that takes you, if you're very lucky, 12 hours. But if you're not lucky, 16 hours a day for the bonus. And especially because of this game-like interface and gambling, it also leads to addiction issues. And so as we've seen, a gamification from below, however we look at it, it's mostly the case of making do, so you don't have much space to move around. But now we will look some games from below, where we can see that there are some possibilities of actually making out. So the trick the system in a way that's hurtful can be seen as resistance. And I can only mention a few games from below, but I will try to be entertaining because there was some very funny things that I learned. So one way to trick the system is very straightforward, is to strategize, choose good shifts, choose a zone where people are rich and they will give you more tips, choose a good time slot. So it's a very straightforward one. Another one is learning the codes of the restaurant, which is actually a very interesting form of resistance, because when you receive a delivery, you don't know where will you go. You can only see a number and then you say reject or accept. But if you manage to learn the codes, which restaurant does it belong to, you can a little bit decrease the informational asymmetry. Because you know, oh, that restaurant is super far away, and then you say decline the order. So learning the codes is a very good way, and codes can also circulate among couriers, among each other. And there are some more radical tricks among couriers to sabotage the system, which is dropping an order with a fake reason. So, for example, one person said, oh, sure, I will go up the hill. I picked up the order, smoked a cigarette, and then I called the dispatcher. Hi, sorry, I've got a flat tire. I had 4 flat tires one day. I'm not going to do 5 kilometers. Leave me alone. So that's another form of sabotage, which can be seen, I think, a very effective form of this small-scale resistance. And there are also games from below, games among one another. So couriers take bets among one another, who can take out more deliveries. And yes, and so before turning to the question of resistance, I also wanted to look at how these games actually attribute to the formation of consent among couriers, because these games make the work very challenging and entertaining, and the successful participation can have pride, self-esteem. It can have recognition from others. So when you say, I'm in the ranking group number 1, everyone says, oh, wow. And you say, I completed 50 deliveries in one day. That's also, you post in the Facebook groups, get a lot of likes. So it's also, something that motivates workers. But actually, if you look at, especially from the games from above, the main point of it is to produce more surplus value for the company. And these games, why they are challenging and entertaining, they also obscure the conditions of exploitation. And another thing with consent is that there is this ethos of efficiency. I think we've mentioned this before in the morning, is that however work is organized, the most important thing is for it to be efficient. I asked a courier, does he think that that it's important and inevitable that the couriers doesn't know how the algorithm work? And he told me, oh, well, yes, if everyone could outsmart it, then what would happen? I think it's necessary that we can't see into it. So this efficiency myth that it's above everything, the most important, truly causes the development of consent. But to the main topic, at the end, resistance. So there are some practical obstacles, which was also mentioned, is fluctuation. So there are lots of seasonal workers, and there are many people who don't imagine themselves long-term in this profession. There is an isolation, so it's very individualized work, no common places. And the algorithmic management also creates this empty space. There is no central character of power. As one of my interviewees said, there is no team here, there is no boss here. And basically there is no physical contact with the company. When I worked there, I signed a contract, which was a physical contract. But after that, I worked for 3 months and I haven't seen a single person from the management, from the company. And there's an isolating layer. And so we have this impersonal algorithm, and which is the most obvious way of this small-scale resistance is tricking this algorithm. And to end on a positive note, there are also success stories. So international examples of organization is prolifying. And for example, in last year, there were many organizations also in Central and Eastern Europe. So not only countries with trade union traditions, but also other countries, which is, I think, a really good path. And also this EU legislation about algorithmic management. I think it's a really good starting point. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think it is really important to have a continuous discussion on gamification and how we can organize workers that are dispersed geographically, or they're into their own silos when working. Let's turn online now, and from platform work, let's hear what automation is bringing right now in Poland. Whether robots will remove or substitute humans. Today we heard some of remarks and experiences from Glovo testing robots in Poland, but Zuzana and her team did a research on automation processes in shared service centers. So without further ado, Zuzana, the floor is yours. Do you have presentation to share, or?
Yes, I have presentation to share. I would love to share my screen, but I can't do it. I'm not able to do it. So
Let's just check with our technical support whether we can no, there is no possibility to.
It works right now.
Okay, actually try now.
Okay, so can you see my slides now?
Yes.
Great. So this was my short introduction that I already said. So this will be the wrap up of our research on shared services centers, which tackles the question whether introducing solutions like RPA, IPA, or artificial intelligence can actually lead to the skilling. And to give you a bit of the context, the discussion about the interplay of skills and automation has been around in sociology since the 70s, at least. The famous argument of Harry Braverman goes that as technology advances, workers' controls over tasks will eventually diminish, and workers will be relegated to narrowly defined roles. Their level of autonomy will diminish as well, and it will lead to de-skilling. So this is the case study that is supposed to somehow play with this question, let's say. This is like a qualitative case study of 4 different companies in Poland. For those who are unfamiliar with the concept of shared services centers, these are entities that are responsible for the execution and handling of specific operational tasks. And such tasks include payroll, HR, accounting, and they are very often highly routine and repetitive. So for those organizations, it was the easiest, it was quite easy to start implementing some robotic solutions there, as you can actually put many of those tasks in algorithms, which can be then translated to programming language. We were interested whether we can already see some changes in workers' skill level and autonomy level after the introduction of some automated solutions. As I mentioned, we did 31 interviews in 4 companies. The companies differed in size, they were from different industries, the maturity was different. And it was also backed up by the desk research reports, mainly reports prepared by the Association of Business Services Leaders. This organization is very, they try to be engaged in social dialogue, and they try to be visible on a Polish business scene, let's say. Why did we choose this sector? The business services sector is really one of the most thriving sectors in Poland. It constitutes 6.7% of total business sector employment in Poland, and it is a significant number for a single sector. We've also seen a dramatic increase in a number of entities and employees in this sector in the last decades. And also out of several different types of business services organizations, specifically shared services account for 1/3 of all jobs. And tasks are most routine there in shared services. So going to the results, or rather wrap up of the results, we identified 2 primary approaches to automation. And so top-down automation and bottom-up automation. How do we actually understand them? Top-down automation, it is, for instance, implementing a platform to consolidate and automate processes, or creating a team dedicated solely to the automation of some processes in the company. This requires a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money as well, and also requires a well-prepared strategy. And we saw from in the research that was done by the Association of the Business Services Leaders that over 40% of companies have no IPA strategy. On the other hand, there's this bottom-up automation approach. And this is, for example, developing micro enhancements, often based on VBA, which is the most the language programming which was the the workers had knowledge about in most cases. Another example of such a bottom-up automation approach is, for instance, informal help to other team members, which is then sometimes formalized into improvement teams. It is much more cost-effective than top-down automation, but also has another advantage that I would like to talk about. We observed that this bottom-up approach is also crucial to understand. It's crucial for understanding workers' skills and autonomy in those organizations, because it was seen in a way, and it worked as a way to engage workers in automation processes, to engage workers in organizational change, which they can be sometimes reluctant to, and also tackle turnover, which is a considerable problem in shared services centers. So here, a manager at the ICT company said that many companies are transitioning to a situation where some of them, this minor automation is being pushed onto users. The whole process of preparing bots by users is also associated with the creation of tools and automation programs that help with it. So what's happening here is actually the situation where workers who previously performed routine tasks, now they are engaging in the process of automating them, and they can really feel that they can develop their skills, the valuable skills of programming, and those skills are sought after on the labor market. So it's really makes their job satisfaction higher. They're more satisfied and they are more engaged in the work they're doing. But this situation could happen only because this basic programming special tools and programs, which are mentioned here, became relatively easy to learn. So one could say that the skilling of one profession, let's say programmer who was responsible for automation, now it lowers entry barriers for others, and it makes it possible for someone else to upskill. Another manager says that part of us at least has predispositions for programming. They call us citizen developers. We come from financial backgrounds. We are all users of various IT tools. Our knowledge mainly relates to Excel. However, we are not programmers. And these are the people that are very often organizations have to engage them in these automation processes to keep them and to make them believe that they're developing some other skills and those skills are very valuable. So engaging workers in those automation efforts really provides a platform for their professional growth and presents solution to the issue of high turnover. Another aspect of automation that was mentioned very often is that it removes tedious work and frees up resources. So it removes tasks that most people do not like, for instance, manual tedious click work. It's also seen as a gateway to a higher quality of work. So employees get rid of tedious tasks, they have more time to develop their occupational interests, they have more time to grow. At least this is how it was presented to us. And of course, this is not the situation that's happening right now in 100%. I mean that they can feel that automation actually can give them a bit more time. They feel it right now. Perhaps some of their tasks are automated, but they're also very positive about the future change, about the fact that that the automation will take more and more tedious tasks from them. So summing up on this interplay between skills and automation, we observed that automation increased control over time of workers, like they know that they have more time to develop their occupational interests, let's say. It also has a positive impact on their autonomy because critical thinking is right now nourished in these organizations as those basic tasks will be probably taken by robots. They have also more time to learn skills that they really want to learn and that they are sought after on the labor market. And probably in this specific context in Poland, we can say about we can say that automation actually will lead to the skilling of those people in these organizations. Actually, what we see is a kind of upskilling trend, but it is also possible mainly due to the fact that due to the trends on the labor market and the fact that employees are right now scarce on the labor market. So companies have to make really a lot to keep them, to tackle turnover. So they maybe sell some kind of promise that you can learn basic programming here, even though so far your tasks were mainly routine, repetitive, and had nothing to do with programming. Anyway, those workers seem to be optimistic about this trend, and yeah, so that's all from me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Zuzana, I hope you could hear the applause that you got for this great presentation. Thank you for sharing the results. And as this panel is called AI at Work, and to borrow this classification from the panel before about small and big AI, we covered platform work as an avant-garde when it comes to the implementation and employment of algorithms to the world of work. We heard about automation, and now we are turning to one of the big questions of our times, and this is the role of trade unions in the age of AI. So Anna, as someone who has academic and practical background, can you tell us more what trade unions can do in the age of AI?
Hi, everybody. I'm Anna again. Well, that's a lot of responsibility on my shoulders to respond to your challenge, Jelena. But I'll do what I can, like humble little steps. Just like a disclaimer to begin with, I am a social anthropologist, but since in social anthropology, theory basically emerges much later in the field. So please consider this like there will be zero science in this presentation. It's really like from my perspective of working as a project coordinator at Novi Sindicat, a trade union, and some really like initial observations and just like a report from the field. So yeah. Sure. Well, so what I can start telling you is that the name of the project is Future Proof Collective Bargaining. So what the project looks at, obviously, as the title says, is like strategies of how to respond to the challenges that AI brings to the world of labor. And so the way we approach this is well, first to assess what those issues are. Like we talked about this yesterday and all morning, and my colleagues have elaborated very well what those challenges are. We know that we have those two, the Platform Work EU Directive and the AI Act that are kind of complement each other in different ways. I would say that the AI Act perhaps directs AI how, like, it basically gives a framework of how AI can be conceived and implemented, and the EU Platform Work Directive transmits that into like the world of labor. Okay. Yeah, so basically this is an introduction of like what do the AI Act and the EU Platform Work Directive mean for syndicalism? What does AI in general mean for syndicalism, and how do we reshape, how do we basically come up with new strategies to address new challenges? So this is an overview of what we will be talking about. Oops, I did something I shouldn't have probably. Okay. Yeah. Is that the slide I wanted? Yeah. So, I mean, AI, this is just like a quote from historian and philosopher Cyril James. To say that, you know, it's not exactly AI that is the problem, and workers are not necessarily, should not necessarily be negatively affected by AI. It can actually be imagined otherwise, but maybe in a different system, not in this one. So basically, AI combined with, you know, neoliberal global capitalism is actually the issue. But this is, yeah, this is what we're faced with. So this is what we're working with. Actually, like Vid, I think that's your name, right? I remember thinking like earlier you were mentioning how, you know, that local alternative to Visa, I think it's a Serbian, yeah, and it was a complete failure. And I was thinking to myself, okay, like maybe, you know, Upwork, okay, like you cannot have a local alternative to Upwork because Upwork opens, you know, the market to like an international pool of work. But why not food delivery? Like, I mean, the government could absolutely come up with actually a working alternative to food delivery platform work, which is what our trade union works with. And it would solve a lot of the issues that we discussed. But again, that's probably in, you know, there are biases and there are various agendas that I will not go into it now, but in a different system, it could be possible. So, yeah, the impact of the EU directive. So, I mean, the challenges that trade unions face is that now, like, we have a different landscape that of work. So before, you know, you're a trade union, you want to advocate for workers' rights. You know who the employer is. It's pretty it's like a straightforward process. I mean, of course, it's not an easy one. But it's at least you know who the enemy is. And here it's much more complex, as we've discussed again all morning, and I'm pretty sure we're all aware of what the issue is. An additional issue in the Croatian context, where I come from, I don't know if I mentioned that, is, and I think in Serbia, yeah, it's the same additional component. It's the aggregator. So I don't know if everybody is familiar with that term, what the aggregator is, which is also included in the Platform Work Directive. So basically, an aggregator is an intermediary that officially employs the worker, so the delivery person, and is responsible for everything that comes with a work contract. So the platform that is the actual employer, I mean, not contractually, but well, actually, but that's what like that moment that we have earlier when I think Agnieszka got like we had this funny moment where we were trying to figure out if Glovo is actually the employer or not. Like, it's a very funny complex issue. But anyway, so the problem is, who do we address? Like, who do we challenge, and who do we try to get like a collective agreement with? And so we need to work out strategies how to do that, because for now this is not what we're getting from the EU Platform Work Directive. So what we came up with Novi Syndikat and this project is basically to share knowledge, to share skills, and to meet amongst ourselves to work out common strategies and to like basically give support to each other on a regional basis. And what we the region that we imagined is Eastern Europe. So we invited, we have, I'll talk more about this in a minute, but we had this event that was imagined over 2 days of exchange and learning from each other and learning from experts. And we invited basically trade unions from Slovenia, Serbia, well, there was us from Croatia, and a trade union representative from Georgia. So what the actual goal was, so to share legal resources for better advocacy, to actually learn what algorithms are. And so I'll tell you how it went. Yeah, so this is the transnational collaboration potential, but the issue that I observed, first of all, I think we were the goal is always transnational collaboration, and there is a potential for trade unions in terms of transnational collaboration, but I think we should, for now, at least keep it regional. Like, one thing that I observed is the language barrier. So we had, for example, one participant from Serbia that did not speak English, and then the participant from Georgia obviously only spoke English. So there was like a clear distinction, and some groups tend to kind of isolate in their little language pool. So the participant from Georgia was a bit excluded. But in terms of collaboration, I think linguistic region, for now at least, works better. And also what I can say about like profiles of trade unionists, and this is, I don't remember who the authors were, but because of the profile that is well, the characteristics of a profile that is required to be a trade unionist. So you have to have experience, you have to have a large network, and you have to have reputation. So basically, the profiles of trade unionists are more or less above 50 in any case, and even members are above 40 on average. So that is an audience that is not as much in touch as like the TikTok generation with technology. So these are two things we need to keep in mind for like future meetings. Yeah. So yeah, this is basically the the details of the face-to-face event, and the outcomes are definitely a strengthened collaboration amongst trade unions. We have Peja over there who is present, and also Jelena was there. Actually, here we are on the picture. Yeah, so over those 2 days, we needed to learn basically we started almost from scratch, because algorithms are very difficult to understand. Like there are several categories of algorithms, and each category does something else. And in order to efficiently use the power of this collaboration of trade unions, we first need to together understand what we can use. And we also had, I was listening to, obviously, to your presentation earlier, we also had we call it like a masterclass of you call it gaming from below, I think. So we called it algorithms of resistance, which was a moment where we discussed strategies of mild retaliation, coming from examples shared that were based on an ethnography in a book called Algorithms of Resistance. I assume you've read it. So this is the things that we discussed. So the face-to-face event. So the challenges. So the EU Platform Work Directive is a way forward, and definitely a positive thing. But there are still challenges that we need to overcome. So the burden of proof is one. The burden of proof did shift to the platforms. meaning that they are the ones that need to prove that the worker is not their employee. However, it still sets the worker in a confrontational legal situation. So the worker is still the one that needs to, again, bring about proof that yes, I am. So if they end up in a legal case, the worker still needs a lawyer, etc. Because he needs to prove 2 out of 6 criteria that he is legally employed. Then so how trade unions might approach this issue is by, instead of the classic trade union strategies, we need to develop strategies for lobbying pressure, meaning that, for example, we had a moment where we needed to identify all actors in the Croatian context that were decision makers in the EU directive. So this is something that you would probably not have to do normally, where you know exactly who the employer is. And here, in a different kind of algorithmic, like AI-based labor, there are new steps that we need to think of. And obviously, the main one is digital literacy. So we need to communicate amongst each other. And another thing that I forgot to mention when I talked about linguistic barriers is that a lot of the educational content is still in English, and we still go back to this language barrier that we have. So what we came up with as a solution is that we will collaborate amongst ourselves to translate some of these things, such as, for example, the GDPR contract. We will create an online platform where we will translate it in our regional languages, and that will be available for all trade unions in our network to use and to help their members. This is, I think, my last slide. And then, so once we solve the regional question, and we establish like strong collaborations with our colleagues from the region, then we can probably think of expanding to maybe some more transnational collaborations. Obviously, there's some specificities in the Global South, and the Global South is much more impacted. I remember thinking yesterday when the Fair Work principles were elaborated, and then the company in where was it, in Kenya, I think, got 2 out of 10, and the presenter mentioned, well, then they can use it as like advocacy and go to the, but like, where's the alternative? They have there's no real competition in terms of like who will employ those workers. So we need to take into account a lot of aspects for the Global South that do not apply to our contexts. And also the question of how will the Platform Work Directive develop in like the national states that need to adapt it to their context, but also based on the new upcoming European Parliament elections, which probably are expected to shift to the right. So let's see how that goes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation, and I would like to ask for a big round of applause for all original contribution and work that our panelists do. And now the floor is open for questions. We will take 1 or 2 questions from the room and then check if there are any online. Okay, we have one question for sure from the audience here. So do we have another mic? And maybe even to take one more question only from online, and then we continue the discussion. Okay. While we are waiting, I will borrow you my mic.
Yeah, I think that, thank you. So thank you everybody for the presentations. I have a nerdy question for the first group, for Maya and Sasha, right? And then I have a comment for Anna, for the last person. So like the first one, the clustering exercise, it's only subjective factors, right, over there that you have. Because like when I was looking at it, my first thing was what I see is for sure clustering of coping mechanisms, right? Especially because what the guys, when they report above average wages and under average hours and see everything is super, and the other ones go like, oh yeah, it's all subjective factors. So I think maybe the next time, if you're doing a clustering exercise of this type, just grab some things, because then you can check the situational factors, right? Are these people that are supporting somebody, or etc., migrants, what have you? So I don't know if you checked anything additionally to that, because there were lots of questions, but I think they were all subjective. And then the second thing about that's more of a comment. You guys should use AI for all of this stuff. So the translation, it should all be AI, but also the monitoring, right? So I mean, I'm involved in a lot of projects, especially lately, a lot of NLP, and the power that you have to process enormous amounts of information for next to nothing is great. So like, I think that's an avenue of fighting back. That's something that actually can level the playing field. Right. Right. Let's talk. Okay.
Okay. So, do you have comments or response to Vit's question?
Yeah, you're right. This is just about the reasons they gave, you know, why they chose their job, and you can say, of course, how reliable are they able to reproduce. That's sure. We did collect, you know, some more objective data. You know, their income, again, is their reported income, but there's no other way to find it out. We also asked them, you know, what does their income enable them to do? You know, just to pay expenses, not even that, or in addition to that. So I didn't show all of that data, but it kind of confirms that some groups are, well, at least they report earning more while working less hours. Here we also, you know, recorded like things like gender and status, but most of them, you know, for example, there are so few women doing this job, so few women in our sample, that it makes further analysis basically useless, because I think there are 4 women in our sample. What are you going to do with, you know, that smaller group?
Any other burning question for our panelists? If not, thank you so much for coming to Belgrade and presenting your evidence. We are looking forward to reading your final results in one of the major academic journals.